Let's talk about the Deus 2 for a minute here, or a couple minutes, few minutes. I've watched a lot of videos lately on the Deus 2, and there's a lot of people out there have no idea what they're doing, just absolutely clueless. And it shows, it really shows. A lot of people are testing, creating videos and testing the Deus 2 like in different scenarios. You can tell they're new with the Deus products, the XP products. If you've never used an XP machine before, I'm going to explain this here. I've ran the Deus 1 for thousands of hours. The Deus 1 for thousands of hours. And I have well over, probably more than 1,500 hours just in the full tones operation. The different programs and at different settings in full tones. And I have a lot of hours in different tonal options with the Deus 1 too. And with different coils, right? The different coils, they respond differently, especially at different frequencies, right? At different frequencies. And I'm gonna really emphasize this. The frequency is a big thing with the Deus machines, with the XP machines. Humongous difference, right? A humongous difference. That's what makes the most difference on the Deus machines, is the frequency. And with the Deus 2, the programs are frequency specific, so you cannot adjust those frequencies within those programs. So you got to understand, you really got to read the instructions, or you just got to get a lot of hours on the machine. You know, the Deus 2 is a complex machine. The Deus 2, the more you use it, like at first, you really don't learn a lot about the machine. You know, even out in the field, you don't really learn a lot about the machine if you're new to the Deus 2. A lot of people have done that. You know, they haven't used any XP products, or they haven't used any Deus products in the past, and then they jump in the Deus 2 and they think it's just a junk machine because it's not hitting stuff. You have to learn, you have to get through that learning curve, and it's tough. It's tough to get through that learning curve because every site is different. And you have to understand that the Deus 2 is frequency specific. So just like the Deus 1, just like other machines, you know, you're gonna hit on higher conductive targets with lower frequencies. They're gonna be able to penetrate through the earth a little bit better on higher conductive targets at the lower frequencies. But some soils do not like the frequencies that are preset within that program. Some soils do not like that frequency. You know, so you cannot adjust that frequency that you're running on that certain program. So you just can't use that program maybe for that certain day or in that certain area at that time. So I don't want to scare people away from the Deus 2, because it is a truly amazing machine, but you have to learn it. The Deus 2 is like 12 different machines. You got to understand that. It has more programs than most manufacturers have on their machines, right? You know, you look at Nokta, you know, they have like a field program, they have a park program, they might have a beach program, you know, 4 or 5 different programs on a detector. The Deus has 12 different, the Deus 2 has 12 different programs. And those programs, the filters within those programs, some of the filters you cannot adjust on those. So you can have the same exact settings on 2 different programs and it responds totally differently, right? Completely different machine. So you have like 12 machines that you have to learn with the Deus 2. I don't want to make it too overcomplicated, but just learn what you're, just keep in mind, you know, put it in the back of your mind, and like at the end of the day, just use one program, go through an area. Just use one program, go through an area, and try to dial it in, right? Dial it in, settle the machine down, and see what you get. You know, look at all your finds, look at all your junk. What are you finding? Then the next day, the next hunt, go through that same area and put it in a different program and dial the machine in, you know, get it to settle down and see what else you get out of the ground. You get totally different stuff, right? Because they're different frequencies. Sometimes when I go out to spots like a park with the Deus 2, It's really finicky, right? Some days a program that I was doing I was killing it with the day before, I put it in that same exact settings. There's just no way. It's not possible, right? Because the soil conditions change so freaking much, man. That learning curve, you learn very little at first with the Deus, and the more, hundreds and thousands of hours that you get on the Deus machines, the more you're learning, and the more you're learning about the Deus machines, the more you're learning about your other machines, so you can operate your other machines at full, to their limits. And I think that the Deus 1 machine is really a simplified version of the Deus 2, but I think it's a lot more stable, right? It's not so finicky in my soil here. I have really mineralized ground, so the moisture content has a lot to do with it, and it's not nearly as a powerful machine, but it's just more stable. It's just more stable. You can run it unstable, the Deus 1, but it's just not nearly as deep as the Deus 2. But the Deus 2, you gotta harness that power. You gotta harness that power, dial it back a little bit. And you can't just dial it back by dropping the gain down. It's not how it works, right? You have to know that those settings are interdependent on each other, and they have a lot to do with each other. And it's just a fine balance and tweaking. Once you get that Deus 2 dialed in, bam, bam, bam. I mean, you just start smashing targets out of the ground. And you try that same program, those same settings the next day, there's just no way. It just doesn't work that way. And most of the times when I get to a site, I'm usually not getting a lot out of the ground. I have to just dial it in and just try a few things, even in a small area, right? Maybe in a 2,000 or 3,000 square foot area, I just have to dial it in, just push a bunch of buttons. And the more you learn the machine, the faster you can dial that machine in. You swing over that soil for about 30 seconds, and exactly, you listen to the machine, and you know exactly what that machine is telling you. It's telling you to put it in this certain program, have these certain settings, and bam, 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 you change your settings, and you're done. It's dialed in. But it takes a lot of hours to get to that point, to listen to that machine and be really tuned into that machine and listen to what it's telling you. And then, bam, all it takes is just a couple minutes of dialing it in, and you're done. But it takes a lot of hours to learn how to do that, how to dial the machine and learn what it is telling you. That's one thing that the Deus 1 is really good at. It's really good at giving you an audio perspective on what it needs to be, what needs to be changed on it. With the Deus 2, it's a little bit tougher because the programs are so different. The filters are so different that it just takes a while to learn one program. Just stick it in one program and spend a couple hundred hours on that single program and learn that program on different sites, right? And learn what it's going to get you, and then go to a different program and try that for a while, for 100 hours or so, and then you begin to learn the machine. So if that area has deeper targets, or if it has higher conductive targets, or if you're an iron, or if the ground is wet, that's one thing that I've really struggled with the Deus 2 is the wet ground, right? The saturated mineralized soil. I've really struggled with that part of it. The Deus 1 really doesn't have those types of problems with the mineralized soil. The Deus 1, like I said, it's not really very deep machine. The Deus 2 is a lot deeper machine, and it's a lot more powerful, so you have to tame it. You have to really regulate that power so you're getting the max, so you're really pushing it to the limits, but it's not running too hot, because once it's running too hot, you're not going to get very much out of the ground. You're going to struggle with it, right? It's going to be a really noisy machine. And And I'm going to talk about full tones here for a minute. Full tones on the Deus 2 is completely useless. I have had a lot of videos out with the Deus 2 in full tones, but it just does not compare to Deus 1 full tones. Deus 1 full tones, if you've run the Deus 1 full tones for a lot of hours and you jump in the Deus 2, you're probably not going to like it. You're probably not going to like it much, right? The Deus 2 right now with these versions, it's not working for me, right? I haven't used the full tones in quite a while, for at least a couple months. Hunted with it in full tones. It's just the 5-tone and the pitch tones is really working for me. Some people might disagree. They might like it, but they probably don't have much time on the Deus 1. The Deus 1 is the ultimate in full tones. It really works very, very, very well. It's not a deep seeking machine. That's what I do not use the Deus 1 for a deep machine. I use it for a lightweight machine getting gold rings. It's a gold ring and shallow target getter, right? I can swing that machine around super fast and just smash targets out. You know, you look at my videos from, you know, last year, you know, 6 or 8 or 10 or about a year ago, I was smashing targets out. I was killing it with the Deus 1. It's just I'm one with the Deus 1, you know, because you can use different coils on the Deus 1, you know, and each one of those coils is a different machine too. So you got to understand that I'm using the Deus 2 just with one coil. There's only one coil option I'm using for it, and it's a 9-inch coil. But excuse me, you're seeing these videos of these guys testing the Deus 2 and they're not really having very good results. Well, just stay with it for a while. Stay with it and learn how to adjust those settings. Then you'll start hitting on stuff. And you know that the Equinox does really good on test subjects. Like when I bury them in the ground, the Equinox can hit it. A lot of my other machines, most of my other machines struggle on burying coins in my hot soil. The Equinox does very well, you know, on freshly buried coins, especially in the lower frequencies. But you know, once I start using the lower frequencies in my soil here, it just doesn't work. You know, it's just not a stable machine. That's what I'm more interested in. I'm more interested in having a stable machine than hitting targets that I just buried in tests or you know, on tests and whatnot. You know, it's all about how stable your machine is when you're searching. When you're searching, you know, we're not hunting in a test bed all day long. We are out there in the real world, and we want our machine to be somewhat stable. You know, I like my machine a little bit unstable, but you know, the guys out there who are making these videos and who are saying the Deus 2 cannot hit coins around nails and stuff, well, they have no idea what they're doing, man. They have no idea what they're doing. I am very good friends with Calabash Digger. I talk to him very often, and I understand that the Deus 2 is a really, really good machine. But everybody has different soils, and in hot soil like mine, if you really don't have a lot of patience with the Deus 2, you'll just give up on it. You'll think that it's a horrible machine, right? It's not a horrible machine. You just got to stay with it. You got to get through that learning curve, and I am not through that learning curve yet. I probably have a lot of hours to go till I'm through that learning curve. I'll probably never master the Deus machines, the Deus 1 or the Deus 2. Believe it or not, you know, I mean, you know, I don't claim to know it all about metal detecting, and I'm learning a lot of new stuff all the time about metal detecting. You know, metal detecting is a learning curve experience just in itself. The machines aren't really hard to master, right? They're not really hard to learn. It's the conditions, learning how to dig, learning what frequency, what coil, what metal detector to use to take out for the day. That's the hard part. Learning the conditions and knowing what detector to take along with you, you know? But if you're stuck with one machine, you're very limited. You're very limited on what you can get out of the ground, right? So no machine can do it all. No machine can do it all, man. Right? And not one single program can do it all. You have to be able to really explore and to think outside the box and go outside of your comfort zone and try different settings, different programs, different coils, go to different spots, maybe some beat up spots, and just see what you can get out of the ground with the different programs. The programs are frequency specific on the Deus too, so just hang in there. Keep on going, keep on going. You'll eventually learn how to get through that learning curve, that initial quite a few hundred hours. That learning curve is really tough to get through. With other machines, like the Legend, it's a really simple machine, right? I see a lot of guys killing it with the Legend right now. A lot of guys killing it with the Deus 2 also. But you just got to stick with it, man. It's not easy. It's not easy. Well, thank you for watching.